So I'm here today with Nikki, and Nikki is doing her first half Ironman on the Sunshine Coast in about 12 weeks time, and her training partner was in the other day. I made a little video with Mamiko, and so this is the original position, and the things that I'm seeing again, the saddle's too high, and it's causing pain, there's discomfort. And what Nikki tells me is she'd done the Noosa Triathlon, and when she got off she was cramping badly in the calves, and I think that has something to do with the cleat position, and I'll show you those, and the fact that she's over lengthening through the pedal stroke. And then neck and shoulder pain, you can see, I'll show you the front end of the bike, but she's not comfortably coming into those pads, and I would imagine when she fatigues her hands will come back and that elbow comes right off the end of that pad. There's no skeletal support, and we get a lot of pain through the base of the neck between the shoulder blades. So we're going to fix all this stuff up hopefully today. Alright, so Nikki's off the bike, and I just want to give you viewers an overview of the bike, and so you can see what I have identified as some issues just with the way the thing's been built. Number one, these armrests are on back to front, okay? The other thing is, ideally, we might need to do this actually, but what we would typically see is the armrest sitting here behind this bracket, but it doesn't matter, we can fix things up there. And this is the saddle, and you know, anything with a closed in front I typically find is going to cause a bit of soft tissue pressure. So we'll make a few I'll show you the cleats, I'll show you the position of the cleats, and we're going to change those as well. Okay, so these are Nikki's shoes, and the cleats are in the same position on both. And now, when she did Noosa Triathlon, she told me that and we were talking about why I would position the cleats back and the impact that it has on the calf, pushing it forward. And she said to me, oh, Noosa Triathlon, I got off the bike and I was cramping in the calves.
Yes.
And it's two things in this scenario. Number one, because the cleats push forward and that's activating the calf, and number two, because the saddle's too high, and even if the cleat was in the right position we'd still have that same problem. So I'm going to move these cleats back, and then we'll have a look at the saddle and stuff. Okay, so two things. We decided to change the cleats because they're pretty worn, and you can see here I've pulled them all the way back, centered them in the shoe, and then we're going to watch the rider's tracking. Alright, so what we've done is we've changed out that saddle. I put on an ISM PL, Performance Long saddle. It's just a test saddle. And I actually cut the seat post. So one of the reasons why the saddle was too high is because the seat post was bottomed out. And obviously whoever, I don't know. Anyway, we've cut the seat post. And the saddle's more comfortable, Nikki's telling me. But I think we're a bit too far forward in that position. I'm going to move the saddle back a touch, and then I'm going to move the aero bars, or move the pads, and we'll go from there. Alright, so what I've done now is I've lowered the bars 30mm, and I've also flipped the pads around. So now when Nikki goes down, her elbow hits the pad. And we were talking about positioning because Nikki's fairly new to being in a time trial position, where she should sit on the saddle. And you can see with this ISM test saddle we've got a green band around the back, and I would expect to see that while she's sitting up. And then Nikki, if you go into your time trial position, all we're doing here is rotating forward. We can now see more of the saddle, but she hasn't pulled herself forward. And you'll notice that the shoulder is behind the elbow. Now, what she was doing previously, Nikki, was pulling herself forward. So pull yourself forward, Nikki. Now what you can see happens there, she's now sitting on the front of the saddle because in her head that's where she thinks she might need to be, but the shoulder's rotated in front of the elbow, and this will give you pain in the shoulders and the neck after a while. We want to sit back and we just want to relax, and then that elbow is planted on the pad, the shoulder sits behind the elbow, and the hand should be nice and high and loose. Okay. How are you feeling, Nikki?
Good. Alright.
Alright. I just wanted to show you the screen here. This is what I'm seeing. And pay attention to the hip. You can see there's a lot of travel up and down through the hip. And the reason this is occurring, or one of the major reasons this is occurring, is because of the length of the crank. And if you sit up, Nikki, what you'll notice when she sits up, there isn't as much travel, but there's still the travel is excessive. And if I zoom in on Nikki, and that hip again, and again, Nikki, if you go into the time trial position, you can see that marker on the hip rising and lowering as the crank comes up. So what's happening is the crank's coming up and it's pushing her hip. And that to me is a giveaway that the crank is too long. So this is the position that we've gotten to. And other than the issue with the crank, we're pretty happy.
Yeah.